You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Mighty Blue podcast. We are well and truly into the White Mountains now, and difficulties and troubles notwithstanding, this really is the most beautiful part of the trail for me. There seem to be new entries into our highlight reels every minute, and of course the mountains make you work for those views. I think I'd quite forgotten how difficult some of these mountains are and how rewarding the payoff is once you get to the top. I've also learned, of course, because I remember from the last time, that the credits I build up on my weekly goal of 80 miles per week are about to be spent quite liberally in New Hampshire. I'd forgotten really how much the mileage comes down. I kind of knew it, I kind of remembered it, but it really does come down. And your days aren't really about how far you go. It's more how much elevation gain and loss there is to make up how far you can really get along in New Hampshire. I guess that's okay though. I know that Nuke wants to finish a little earlier than the 30th of September, so we may have to reassess mileages going forward. Before we get to how the week has gone, let's hear from our sponsor, Polar Steps. If you're heading out on a long hike this year, which I am, I've got something I think you're going to love. It's called Polar Steps. It's a travel tracking app that's going to become a favourite with hikers. You set your start date, let it run quietly in the background, and it maps your entire journey automatically, all on your own beautiful spinning 3D globe. And don't worry, the tracking feature uses about 4% of your battery on a single charge, so it's not going to kill your phone when you're out there. You can add photos and short journal entries as you go, so your map shows you where you were and your words remind you of what that day actually felt like. There's a light social layer too. Family and friends can follow along, or you can keep it completely private. As every hiker says, hike your own hike. And when you're done, you can relive the whole thing in the app or turn it into a stunning coffee table book with your route, stats, photos and stories. And did I tell you that it's entirely free to download and use? The only time you'll be paying anything is if you decide to turn your trip into a book. That's Polar Steps. Track it now, treasure it forever. Day 129, which was last Wednesday, Kinsman Notch mile 1808.3 to Interstate 93 mile 1824.7, a 16.4 mile slackback over the Kinsmans. I left Hikers Welcome after spending 3 nights there, and I've enjoyed it. I know that I kind of wish I'd stayed at the Notch for at least one night to find out what that was like, so I've never stayed there. But Hikers Welcome has always been a place that I've felt welcome, and I enjoyed myself. There. It was more expensive than I was expecting, but then they did have such great resupply, including all the freeze-dried meals I need, and that really does add to the bill, obviously. On this day, we had a number of climbs, obviously, and the main ones being South and North Kinsman, but really it started with Mount Wolf, which was 1,600 feet over about 4 miles. Not too bad, but definitely sweaty. And halfway through it, through the climb, the trail started dipping down to a water source. And I don't know why it is. I just hate dipping down on a climb too far, because I keep saying, don't go down any further, because it just means you've got to go up again on the other side and you've got more feet to climb effectively. But this happened and you can't do anything about it, obviously. Then but we made it, and we got up Wolf. It was fine, and we pushed on up the Kinsman South, and that was hard work. Wouldn't say it was desperate, and one of the reasons it's not desperate, of course, is that we're slack packing, so I'm carrying much lighter pack. I mean, it's just glorious to go in these mountains with a small pack on your back. I've stopped apologising for it, by the way, just so you know, and bumped into breadcrumbs at the top of Kinsman South, and we sat there chatting, and then Nuke, for some reason, was behind me. He rarely is. He's normally ahead of me. But he turned up and we started hiking together. And she and I chatted most of the way to the Lonesome Lake hut where she was staying that night. It was another of those times where you have kind of unexpected conversations that go quite deep. I think when you've got this commonality of purpose, you've got this thing in common, which is what you're doing, this hard thing. You have a conversation, and almost to get away from the difficulty of what you're doing, because we were going down obviously it's the AT, but this part of it was the Fish and Jimmy Trail, and it was an absolute dog. Oh my God, the downhills were so steep, and it was only by sort of hanging on to roots, branches, and even the occasional tree trunk that I could let myself down the mountain. I tend to use the roots and branches as much as I can, actually, because it gives you confidence to allow you to let yourself down. And even if you slip a bit, you're holding on to something which keeps you safe. You do need to check that it's firm, and you do need to check that it's not going to fall away and break away if you rely on it too much. But I do tend to rely on these a lot. But we soon renamed Fish and Jimmy. We kept the Jimmy and we kept the F. Oh dear, it was a shocker. It was a shocker all the way down. I wonder who Fish and Jimmy is, because I want to have a word with him about it, because he did not make a very nice trail. We left breadcrumbs at the hut, and we went inside for a coffee and a Snickers as well. And then we passed by the beautiful, absolutely beautiful Lonesome Lake, and Nuke and I got our pictures taken there. Really was one of those glorious days with reflecting the mountains in the water, very, very still. And I remember back in 2014, I was hiking down from the Lonesome Lake hut, and I was trying to identify exactly where it was. But I was going down with my friends Lider Knot, T-Bird and Trillium, and suddenly I saw this bloody great moose in front of me. It was with antlers, so it was a bull moose, and it was eating from the leaves of the tree. And it was so big that my height, I'm 6'2", and my head was below its back. It was massive, and it's such a privilege seeing these things. But we kept quiet, obviously, and it wandered off eventually. I mean, there was lots of moose droppings on the trail, but no moose at all. We didn't see any at all. Mike, my friend Mike, was putting us up for the night, and he started walking towards us and found us, and he took us all the way down to underneath the I-93. He'd parked nearly another mile away at the Flume Visitor Centre, and extra miles. It's funny, actually, extra miles that you do, even though you're doing nearly 2,200 miles, you resent having to walk half a mile or a mile to a parking lot. But that's what we did. And we started to think about how we could avoid doing that on the following morning, because, an extra mile is a heck of a lot more to do. That night we got back his beautiful cabin. It's a great place. I'm actually recording in his cabin again, so we obviously came back here. He made pizza for us, which was beautiful. We bought some beer, which was lovely. And Brian and Teresa, his neighbours and listeners to the podcast, came in, and they very nicely agreed to run us back to the trail the following morning, which is rather nice. Day 130, or last Thursday, Interstate 93, mile 1824.7, to Liberty Springs campsite, mile 1827.5, a 2.8 mile Nero slog to get into position for Franconia Ridge in the morning. This may seem like a pointless Nero to some of you, but let me tell you, it was absolutely the right thing for me and Nuke. The plan was to get up to Liberty Springs campsite as a launching pad, as it were, for Franconia Ridge the following morning. I'd remembered from previous times going up there. I think I stayed there on both of my previous through hikes, and it was really, really difficult climb up there. It was all rocks. It was all scramble. It was all straight up, and it was a 2.8 mile slog. And it really, I've said it actually in the title, a 2.8 Nero slog to get into position, because that's exactly what it was. We actually spent the morning with Nuke sitting outside and catching up with phone calls to family and so on, while I wrote up my notes for the podcast. Then I set up my chair, of course, at the back of the house, and I recorded everything. Mike, as I said, had enlisted his neighbours, Brian and Teresa, to take us back to the trail. And they came at 1 o'clock as arranged, which was perfect. The podcast was done. They were able to pull off the road and drop us just above the bridge on the trail. So we leapt out the car pretty quickly, wandered through some grass, which wasn't exactly a path, and down, and we were back on the trail in about 100 yards. Absolutely perfect. And, this thing about, I don't know what it is. You do all these miles, as I say, and then when you have to do, I don't know, even just more than 200 yards to a beautiful view, I don't take that 200 yards. If it was 100 feet, maybe I would do. But it's this thing about doing what I call unnecessary miles. And so the fact that Brian and Teresa were able to drop us off right at the bridge was a real treat, and I really appreciate them doing that. So we set off, and it was an absolute constant struggle for that next 2.8 miles. But it was 2,400 feet of elevation gain, and it was straight up. And we stopped 4 times and sat on the way up on the trail because we were just feeling it. And we made it to the shelter after over 2 hours of stopping and starting. I think it was 2.5 hours probably to do 2.8 miles, which even for me is pretty darn slow. The camp, though, is great. You come to the AT, and you of course, carry on the AT. But as you walk up there to the right, there's a water source, perfectly dripping, a nice flow. And just beyond that, there's a bear box, and there is a dinner area where you're supposed to cook all your food there, not on the tent platforms. And the tent platforms are literally wooden platforms, and I've got a freestanding tent, so it's dead easy for me to put my tent up. Some of them have to sort of jerry rig, trying to keep their tent, using rocks to pitch their tent properly. But it's a great flat spot, although ironically, mine wasn't terribly flat that night, and I was rolling down towards the bottom of the tent. But it's a nice setup. I think there are about 5 or 6 tent platforms, and there's a caretaker up there who talked about this through Hikers Pass. And the AMC have started this program. I can't remember how much it costs. It's not much. And let's get this through Hikers Pass, which gives you a cheap price. I think it's $10 for a stay at one of these camps, and then $5 per subsequent stay, which is down from the normal $15, I think. So that's a pretty good deal. You get discounts at the AMC huts. It's almost like being a member of the AMC, but for very little money. So we're actually going to use one of those, one of the huts in the next couple of days. So getting that discount and discount on other things as well, it's well worth getting. And the caretaker at the campsite sold us on it, and we absolutely bought it. So we were tired. We just were tired. We'd started late. We got in there quite early, probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock. I think it was something like that. And I retired to my tent pretty early. But I was in my tent reading actually at the time. I suddenly noticed it was a bit orangey outside, and I was in the perfect position to see a sunset. So I came out to look at the sunset, and there was the sun just dipping down behind the mountains ahead of us. And I was so looking forward to Franconia Ridge the following morning. And it's a special place, no doubt about it. And I would always advise somebody to get to Liberty Springs campsite before they do Franconia Ridge the following morning. Day 131, which was Friday, Liberty Springs campsite, mile 1827.5 to Garfield Ridge campsite, mile 1834.9, a very tough 7.4 mile day. After a short day, the previous day, we followed up by another short day. And this one really took me by surprise. I've been looking forward to this day ever since I decided to do the trail again this year. There really is something almost otherworldly about Franconia Ridge that can only really be experienced and not told. And I'd forgotten actually how how otherworldly it feels being up there, and the views you get immediately you get above tree line, and how spectacular that feels. And I was, I was really so anticipating this day, but yeah, it kicked my ass. So we left Liberty Springs, obviously, that morning, and I was anticipating the day even more because it was an absolutely beautiful, clear day, and I knew what it would be like at the top. I was really looking forward to seeing Nuke's reaction when he saw the ridge stretching out in front of him. It still took quite a while to get above the tree line, which, is it's going to be approaching as trees become shorter and shorter. You feel like you're a giant going through the forest. And suddenly, it's as if you burst out into the sunshine and you see the ridge laid out ahead of you. Very soon, you're on Little Haystack Mountain, and I think Mount Liberty is behind you. You could take a side trail up Mount Liberty. I think I've done that once. I'm not sure, to be honest, whether that's true or not, but that's not part of the AT. But you come out almost on Little Haystack Mountain, and then you see Mount Lincoln and Mount Lafayette stretching high above. Lincoln is high enough as it is, but then you see Mount Lafayette. It is magnificent. And when you zoom in on your camera, you can see little ants, which are people, climbing up and up and up that mountain. It's just stretching high above. It's just beautiful. Between these peaks, there is a prescribed path to keep people off the vegetation, and you're suddenly sharing the trail with quite a few people. Each time you come to a new peak, or even just a rise with a bunch of rocks to sit around on, people take advantage of that and enjoy the 360-degree views. It's another of those times, which is good to realise every now and then, when you realise your absolute insignificance in the world. You're surrounded by this magnificent nature, and there's just little old you up there taking it in with the privilege of just seeing how beautiful it is. And once you reach the top of Lafayette, there's a significant climb down before you go up again, this time to Mount Garfield. And it was on the down from Lafayette that Nuke and I talked about ending the day early. Our plan had been to split the 25 miles between the campsite and Crawford Notch by doing 12 or 13 miles each day. And we highlighted we were going to stay at the Geo campsite, which actually would have been really off trail. So I'm glad we didn't do that. We were going to be staying with Mike, again, my friend Mike. He was going to meet us at Crawford Notch. But, it was pretty clear to us that South Twin Mountain would have killed us. Both of us were suffering, and we decided to cut our losses at just 7 miles at the Garfield Ridge campsite. It was here that we discovered we'd been overcharged for our thru-hiker pass, so they didn't charge us at this campsite and give us credit for one more stop. It's certainly worth checking this out, as you get additional discounts at the huts, including accommodation. So even though it was only about 2:30 in the afternoon, we were both absolutely beat. And I lay down for a sleep, which I rarely do in the afternoon because I'm really not there that early. And the tent pads, they are wooden slats arranged in a square or in an oblong to allow for either, it says on the large tent sites, it says you should be able to get 4 tents on it. Well, my tent is such a behemoth, and Nuke's is pretty big as well, so we could get 2 on a large pad, which not helpful for other hikers, I know, but definitely tents are getting bigger. And I'm sure in the old days you could get 4 small tents on a large pad, but there was no possibility of us getting, well, we may have got 1 more, but no possibility of getting 4 tents on our large tent pad. But I really enjoy them, as I say, because they're generally flat and they give you a nice comfortable evening. And that evening we bumped into familiar faces again, including Chewy in Cheshire and Rocketeer, while I sat at dinner in the specified eating area with a bunch of super smart youngsters who really impressed me with their wit and their conversation. I felt like a complete dummy talking to these people. The young lady from Brown and the young man from Harvard, and wow, these are smart young kids coming up, let me tell you. And so that was the end of Franconia Ridge, and I feel privileged once more to have had the chance to do it. I feel I wasn't at my best doing it. I try to, I always try to live in the moment and remember it. I've got it in my mind right now, thinking back to it, the clarity of the day, the joy on people's faces when they're up there, and the wonder on their faces as they're looking around. Nuke and I both had that as well. We were looking around and finding It's just magnificent. If you ever get the chance, you try to go up there. Maybe not the route we took. Maybe I think there's a loop you can get up to see it a lot easier without climbing up some of the steep stuff that we've done. But man, it is so darn beautiful. Day 132, which was yesterday, Saturday. Garfield Ridge Campsite, mile 1834.9 to US Route 302, Crawford Notch, mile 1852.5, a 17.6 mile day. Man, in many ways, I felt like we redeemed ourselves on this day. Not that we necessarily needed redeeming, if you know what I mean, but we managed to make up the mileage to complete that 25 miles in 2 days. That felt really, really good, though exhausted, obviously. When we started the day, we set our sights on the 17 miles, but we gave ourselves a realistic out at around 12 miles. It really was a case of seeing how we felt when we got to the 12-mile point. The big climb of the day we knew was going to be South Twin Mountain, about 1,400 feet of elevation gain in about a mile and a bit, which is pretty darn steep. After that, the profile looked pretty decent and we set out with enthusiasm to make it to the end. However, we instantly ran into a shocking downhill from Mount Garfield, and we took an age tentatively manoeuvring ourselves down the mountain. It really was not a good start. Once again, holding on to roots and trees, limbs, and the steeper it got, the more tentative I became, and I was worried about slipping. I didn't slip. I still haven't fallen now for over 3 weeks, which is amazing. And I'm very happy about that, as you can imagine. But this was a tough start, and it was probably one of the toughest downhills we've had. But the nightmare eventually came to an end, and we pushed on towards South Twin Mountain. Joe, I didn't find it all that challenging, to be honest, for the first part of the climb. And we made it to Gale Head Hut, where we took advantage of a few baked goods and a cup of coffee. We are at the stage now when we could literally eat all day long and still lose weight. I weighed myself, I don't think I've told you this yet. I weighed myself the other day, and fully clothed, I've dropped about 52 pounds. So I've obviously lost 54 maybe. And with about 800 miles to go, I should probably disappear around mid-October. I'm still losing weight, and obviously certainly the next few weeks, the end of New Hampshire and also Maine is going to test my ability to retain weight, I guess. But refreshed by these extra carbs we got from the hut, we still had about 1,100 feet over about 0.8 of a mile to get to the top of the mountain, which is one of the steeper climbs that we've done. And I think my mindset has definitely improved on mountains. I don't seem to stop anymore that much. I know we were going up to Liberty Springs campsite because we were exhausted, but I can keep going at a slower pace, and that is so much more helpful than I ever imagined it would be. But these intense climbs, you just have to accept you're going to be on them. You're going to be on them for quite a while. If you're lucky, you might get, I don't know, a mile an hour, and so the fact that we were doing 1,100 feet over about 0.8 of a mile, that is an intense climb. But at this stage, when we got to the top, we still had 14 miles to go, but it was largely downhill. We still had to climb a few times, and we even got lost at one stage, taking a spur trail out to the top of Mount Gio, which was nice. We'd gone over another mountain, but we realised we'd gone the wrong way. So realising our mistake, we backtracked and took the right turn. So this gave us an additional 3/4 of a mile to our days. So really, in actual fact, we did over 18 miles on this particular day. Just realised that. For me, the most memorable part of the day was getting to Zealand Falls Hut, a place that I recall very well from last time. And it was packed with kids playing in the waterfall and on the smooth rocks. But I remember it for a different reason. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. Once again, we ingested a bunch of more carbs before hitting and this is it, one of the most memorable places on trail, which is an almost straight run along a flat gravel path sitting above a valley below of rocks. I remember this so well from both my hikes, and given the fact that we were hiking a lot of miles, it was very welcome at this stage of our hike. We had to actually climb up about 500 feet, but that was over about 10 miles, so we hardly noticed it. And I recall that there was a stealth camping site out of Zealand Hut on this path, in the woods down below, and I don't know where they are now or where they were, but there was a list of stealth camping sites, and in this particular one, there must have been 14 or 15 tents all down below, out of sight of everybody, and we found it, which was great. But I was starting to run on fumes towards the end, and there was quite an intense downhill for the last 2 miles with plenty of steps that jarred the knees on the way down. Steps are great for getting up a mountain, I find, but steps down, man, they really jar me. Nuke had gone ahead and I came out at Crawford Notch, about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes behind him. We'd arranged with Mike to pick us up around 6:45 p.m. and we were about 15 minutes early at about 6:30. 6:45 came and went, and 7 o'clock came and went, and we were starting to get a little concerned because we didn't have cell service. There was no way to contact Mike. It was getting darker, and it looked like it was about to pour with rain. In fact, Nuke put on his backpack and said, I'm going to walk up the road, see if I can get some service. I don't think he would have got service. But suddenly, as we were planning to do that, I saw Mike's car, or a car, indicating that they were turning into the parking lot. And I knew we were okay. I've got to tell you, that was a big relief. It really was. Back at Mike's, there was a big open fire going, and he made pizza once more for us and some of his neighbours, as well as his lovely girlfriend, Jennifer. It was a fun way to end what had been a very, very tiring day. I have felt very much that these past 4 days, I've been in kind of some survival mode almost, pulling hard on my reserves just to get through the day. As a consequence, I haven't interviewed other hikers, even when I had a chance to. However, I'd come up with an idea for my friend Mike to cover an issue on the podcast when I return, so we can hear about that now. So, I'm sitting in my friend Mike's cabin in the woods, and he's been our gracious host for a couple of nights now, along with his lovely girlfriend, Jennifer. Mike, thanks for talking to us.
Well, it's great having you here, and it's so fun to talk to you in person.
In person, that's right. Yeah, Mike was a guest on the show about a year ago, I recall, and I knew then that you were a pretty avid outdoorsman. I don't think I quite realised how avid you are. So tell everybody what you did yesterday.
Well, like some people go to the gym after work. I'm fortunate enough to live in the woods and head outside to my outdoor gym. So yesterday, I knew you were going to be hiking across by the Gale Head Hut, up South Twin and over towards Zealand. So I thought it would be a fun hike to do this 12-mile loop where I go up to, connects with the Appalachian Trail to the Gale Head Hut, hike up Gale Head Mountain over to South Twin, and then exit the AT to North Twin, down the North Twin Trail. But it's a start and a finish at 2 different parking lots.
Yeah.
So I needed either someone to pick me up, or I had 2 cars available. I got up at 5 a.m, drove 1 car to the end, biked back, which is only about 4 miles, but in the first thing in the morning, and then got in my other car, biked to the start, did the 12-mile hike, had a wonderful day, and then drove home. And then I realized I need to drive my car to go get drive my bike to go get the other car. So I got about 10 miles of bonus cycling in.
That's a pretty good, neat way of doing things, isn't it, really? Because you could then do that in any trails, can't you, which don't actually happen to be a loop.
Absolutely. And I've even met people doing sections of the Appalachian Trail in New England, and they've done something similar. They might hike a 10-mile section and then the bike ride in between to go back. They stash a bike, lock it to a tree. So,
I can't think of anything I'd less like to do than cycling 10 miles especially after yesterday, we did 17 miles, and then just get on a bike and go 10 miles up a bloody hill. I mean, it was just a nightmare for me, I tell you.
I felt my legs for sure.
Yeah. So you're a very, very active fella. It's been very clear to us in the last few days that, you get out and do all these things. But your day job is something different. So tell us about your day job.
It is. So I work at a local community college. I'm the director of admissions there, but I'm also an adjunct professor in the health science department. And one of the courses I've been teaching for the last 14 years is a basic nutrition class for the students.
Right. So what I've asked Mike if he would do, he's going to come up with some ideas before, we won't be doing this till I get back. But the idea is to try to help prepare hikers for their upcoming through hike next year, or even long section hikers, anything really where you're going to be out in the woods for some time. And if you're like me, you go into a grocery store and you kind of see all sorts of stuff, trail mix and bars. We're going to try to help educate people on what to be looking for to get themselves the right sort of nutrition, the right sort of food they need for backpacking. So are there any basic tenets one could apply before we really get into the whole thing when we do the full-on interview, when I finish? How do you look at nutrition in terms of backpacking?
So I try to blend a number of factors. Of course, there's price, there's personal taste, and just nutrient density. So I'm trying to...
define nutrient density. What does that actually mean?
So when you look at calories,
right.
Say you have something that has 500 calories.
Right.
500 calories from, say, like a soda, like a soft drink, is 500 calories. 500 calories from almonds is also 500 calories, but those almonds are also going to have more vitamins and minerals and fiber than, say, the soft drink.
Right.
So even though it's the same calories, you could argue the almonds are going to be a little more nutrient dense.
Right.
As opposed to, we want energy dense, we want those calories, but it'd be nice if we can blend getting vitamins and minerals and fiber, as well as our carbs, proteins, and fats.
I don't know whether he's listening, because I know he's upstairs, but Nuke, the beer you've been drinking and all the calories from the beer you've been drinking, you're not getting the nutrient density.
Those empty calories can play a role too, though.
That's right. So what do you take when you're going, say, if you go for a weekend backpacking trip, what do you tend to take with you?
Well, I do like cooking breakfast in the morning. Having a hot breakfast helps, and I think
hot breakfast is important personally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't mind taking the extra time to fire up the stove.
Yeah.
When you go for a weekend, you don't quite get sick of oatmeal. I know, like, oatmeal has a great long calorie kind of burn for you. It's a slow release, but we know that a lot of hikers get really sick of oatmeal a few weeks into it. So I tend to bring oatmeal, and I'll put like a maple, rather than maple syrup, like a maple sugar. It's basically maple syrup that's been kind of dried, it packs better with some nuts, like walnuts or something. So that's a great breakfast that has a lower glycemic index for the most part. That'll give you that long-lasting burn. And then lunches, I love having tortilla wraps with peanut butter. It's going to give me the nutrient and the calorie density that I need.
Okay.
That's savory. And then dinners, I love to cook a hot dinner as well, too.
So the lower glycemic burn, I've heard each of those words, but using conjunction with one another, that means you're trying to release something from the food more slowly to give you more consistent energy. Is that kind of getting there?
Right. It takes longer for your body to digest.
Right.
So when you think of carbohydrates, you think of glycemic index. So if I had a bowl of cornflakes in the morning, that's going to give me a quick energy rise, but a subsequent kind of energy fall. It's not going to last as long as, say, if I have a bowl of steel-cut oatmeal, same number of calories, but a lower, kind of a longer time to digest, so it kind of a longer burn.
Great. Well, that's the sort of stuff we need to be talking about when we do this. But I appreciate you so much looking after us. It's been great staying here. Mike's got this great bread maker, which basically makes pizzas all the time. So they're fantastic as well. So we really appreciate what you've done for us so far. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you when this is all over.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here, and I look forward to November.
Okay, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. I'm excited to see what Mike can come up with for this nutrition section of the show, because I know as a hiker myself that I often stand in grocery stores and find myself unable to choose the sort of thing I need to get through the following 3 or 4 days. You would think I would know by now, wouldn't you? Mike knows nutrition and he knows outdoor pursuits, so I think this will be a really good fit for my audience. As for the rest of it, despite being constantly exhausted right now, I've really enjoyed New Hampshire and I'm looking forward to the next 50 or so miles. And then, of course, we're going to be in Maine. I'll see you next time.